Hello everyone, this is a screencast for Chapter 4, Threats to the Environment. Three facts are going to guide our discussion of this. First, some environmental problems are beyond human control, but most are social, that is, a result of human interaction and origin. Second, the magnitude of the problems is so great that the survival of the human species is in jeopardy. And third, environmental problems may originate within a nation, but the effects are felt globally. We have to define a couple of terms. First of all, we need to define the term biosphere. A biosphere is a surface layer of the planet in the surrounding atmosphere. An ecosystem is the mechanism, plants, animals, and microorganisms that supply people with the essentials of life. There are three things that are threatening Earth's ecosystems. First, an increase in population. Second, growing inequality of income between the rich and poor nations. Those at the top overconsume resources. And third, economic growth, which is powered by the accelerated extraction and consumption of fossil fuels, minerals, water, and timber. If population growth continues as it is, the world population will reach 9 billion sometime before 2050. That dramatic increase has put stresses on the environment. 1% of the Earth's topsoil is lost each year. A 3-foot layer of topsoil provides a crop to feed 7 billion people and livestock. If we're losing 1% of the Earth's topsoil each year, a few facts. When housing, shopping, schools, roads, and other uses are added up, each American occupies 20% more developed land than he or she did 20 years ago. Second, land is being converted for the development about twice the rate of population growth. And third, nearly 3,000 acres of farmland are converted to non-agricultural uses daily. Rainforests are rapidly destroyed. Why? Economics, from the greed of developers to the desperation of poor peasants. Lumber, petroleum, and mining companies build roads into the jungles to extract their products and transport them to markets. Governments encourage the poor people to settle in these regions by building roads and offering land to settlers who must clear it for farming. Cattle ranchers require vast expanses of their herds, 5 acres of pasture for each head. Land speculators clear huge areas for expected profits. The sources of deforestation are not just local. The poverty of these nations, often the result of their colonial heritage, their indebtedness to wealthy nations, and the products needed by the wealthy nations contribute to this deforestation. In China, the supplier of a third of the world's furniture is a leading importer of illegally logged wood. Two major problems as a result of deforestation. First, climate change. Deforestation changes rain patterns. Burning to clear the land also changes the climate. Vanishing of species. Humans benefit from the diversity of species. The deregulation of the forests impacts climate change and the loss of animal species. Diversity in animal life is good for the ecosystem. Continuing changes to the climate result in further economic problems. Environmental pollution and degradation includes chemical pollution. Over 4 billion pounds of toxic chemicals are released by the industry into the nation's environment each year. A movement known as environmental justice works to improve environments for communities. They watch when a segment of the population, poor, minorities, powerless, are at risk of environmental hazards. This is a movement against environmental racism. Evidence when toxic waste plants or dumps are disproportionately placed in areas of poverty, especially adjacent to communities of people of color. Solid waste pollution. The United States discards 30% of the world's resources. It's the largest producer of solid waste among industrialized nations. Increased amounts of waste are contaminated with compounds and chemicals that do not appear in nature. These wastes pose new and unknown threats to human, animal, and plant life. 34% of solid waste is now being recycled. This is a positive step. Water pollution. Four major sources of water pollution: industries, agriculture, cities, and oil spills. Water pollution is the most immediate threat to poor nations, because waterborne diseases, as we've learned, are a major cause of death. Radiation pollution from both natural sources and technology is a threat to humans. Accidents involving radiation are immediate and extreme danger. Extended exposure to radiation can also pose threats to our health. And air pollution. Outdoor air pollution causes 1.3 million deaths per year worldwide: asthma, bronchitis, and emphysema. Chemicals are found in food, fertilizers, and pesticides. In terms of solid waste pollution, the large percentage of solid waste in landfill is usually located near poor areas and cities, and the landfill category needs to be reduced. Water pollution. The Hudson River in the U.S., this is a picture of. Along a 200-mile stretch of the upper Hudson River, General Electric dumped 1.3 million pounds of polychlorinated biphenyls, PCBs, into the river over a 30-year period. PCBs cause cancer in laboratory animals, and they're linked to premature births and developmental disorders. General Electric stopped this practice in 1977 when the federal government banned PCB use. Radiation pollution. The Hanford nuclear weapons plant in Washington State released over 400,000 curies, that's what we use to measure units of radioactivity, into the atmosphere. The world consumes approximately 85 million barrels of oil a day. The United States is the greatest consumer of oil products, using approximately 19.2 million barrels. The European Union is second at 13.7 million barrels. Consequences of worldwide increase on fossil fuels: world tensions are heightened in the Persian Gulf, increased risk of accidents in our waterways because of transport and offshore drilling, and a release of carbon dioxide from the burning of fossil fuels leads to climate change. The United States, home to roughly 5% of the world's population, consumes 19.2 million barrels a day, about 22.6% of the world's daily consumption of oil. Climate change. Prior to the Industrial Revolution, the carbon dioxide released in the air was in small enough amounts that it could be reabsorbed by plants and not cause problems. Today, with our reliance on fossil fuels, the amount of dangerous gases released has increased. The amount released is beyond the Earth's capacity to reabsorb. The greenhouse effect is all the gases trapped like a greenhouse in the Earth's atmosphere. The gases trap heat in the atmosphere and warm the Earth. Gases, as the Earth warms, the ice caps melt. There are more storms and diseases spread. Debate about climate change ranges between Democrats and Republicans. The debate is over whether or not humans are the cause of climate change, and even if climate change is actually occurring. What are the sources of U.S. environmental problems? If we look at cultural sources, the view believes that the natural world is a bountiful preserve available to serve human needs, justifies the abuse of the environment. The belief that science will save us, we rely on technology to overcome nature rather than acquiescing to nature. So our faith in science and technology has actually resulted in environmental problems Yet, ironically, we must turn to science and new technologies to solve these same problems. Americans love progress and believe there's always something better. Progress is typically defined as technology or growth. The growth can cause problems with the ecological system. Progress is translated at the individual level into consumption of material things as evidence of one's success. Planned obsolescence, the creation of goods that will wear out or go out of fashion. And personal success. Hard work and determination will lead to achievement. So we have to use the land for our own personal gain. Structural sources. The capitalist economy, structural arrangements in U.S. society reinforce the misuse of resources and abuses of the ecosystem. The U.S. economic system of capitalism depends on profits. Companies must grow more assets and more sales, translate into more profits. To maximize profits, owners must minimize costs. Among other things, the search for profits results in environmental abuse. The profit motive overrides concern for the environment, to wit, built-in obsolescence. Existing products such as automobiles are given cosmetic changes and presented to consumers as new. Planned obsolescence creates consumer demand as purchasers trade or throw away the old product for the new. Think about your cell phone. Polity. Because of the influence of interest groups, including corporations or politicians, any punishment of corporations is not severe enough to force damages. Demographic patterns. Concentrations in metropolitan areas lead to more environmental problems, naturally. Pollution through the concentration of waste, automobile exhausts, and garbage dumps. A system of stratification. Poor people and racial minorities are disproportionately exposed to the dangers of pollution. Environmental racism and classism means that these people are lower. The people who are exposed the most to environmental hazards are lower class and predominantly minority. The population in the United States is generally concentrated in large metropolitan areas. Wherever people are concentrated, the problems of pollution increase through the concentration of wastes. So what are some of the solutions to the environmental problem? Well, we've got we've got in the 70s, the public began to demand something had to be done. April 22nd is Earth Day. President Nixon created the Environmental Protection Agency to pass laws to clean up the air and water. Considerable progress has been made, but we still need to see a change in the way that things are done. The United States is an individualistic nation. We believe that people should work hard, and if they do, they can be successful. American values of profit, progress, and capitalism won't matter when we have no room, no resources, endangered species, and no sources of energy. So what are some of the solutions? Laws with serious penalties, federal regulations, and energy conservation plans similar to the plans that are being enacted, in California for water rationing or water consumption, actually. The United Nations Climate Change Conference is an annual conference to discuss reductions in greenhouse gases emissions and efforts to hold the increase in global temperature below 2 degrees. World governments committed to write a legally binding international treaty that will be in place by 2020. Okay, that's chapter 4. Please move ahead and review chapter 5.